You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Two-face. There are several within both the roster and front office of the Dallas Cowboys, past and present, who know this lesson all too well. It's one that kicker Brett Maher learned the hard way in his first year as an NFL kicker, having fought tooth and nail for years in the Canadian Football League for his shot at the big stage. He'd finally get his wish, in a very be careful what you wish for manner, not only landing on literally the most visible and most valuable sports team on the planet, but instantly replacing a Cowboys legend in the process. The decision to release Dan Bailey from Maher last August will be argued into perpetuity, but the pitchforks and torches were stowed away as the latter rattled off 16 consecutive makes following his initial regular season miss. That stretch included a game winner that lifted the Cowboys over the Detroit Lions in Week 4, earning them NFL Special Teams Player of the Week honors. The 29-year-old was riding a wave of positive energy and support, but things were beginning to again darken a bit. Maher had missed a kick in 3 consecutive games, including a 52-yard boot in Week 7 that would have forced overtime against the Washington Redskins. Although that loss was more accountable to an inept defense, a turnover-happy Dak Prescott, uber-conservative coaching staff who played to not lose as opposed to going for the win, and a phantom snap infraction penalty against long snapper LP Ladouceur, Maher will be the first to remind you he gets paid to do a job as well. On that evening, however, he was one of many who did not. Only 2 games later, he found himself in another precarious situation when he missed a 42-yard kick in the third quarter against the Philadelphia Eagles. The score at the time was 13-6 in favor of Dallas, and a successful field goal would have made it a 2-possession game. The score of 27-20 left the door open for the Eagles to potentially mount a comeback to force overtime or worse, whereas a score of 30-20 would have nailed the coffin before rookie linebacker Leighton Vander Esch and safety Jeff Heath were forced to take matters into their own hands. Bullet dodged barely. On the whole, Maher was solid in his first NFL campaign, but there's much room for improvement. He finished his first season with the Cowboys having registered an accuracy rate of 80.6% on FG attempts, and that's a good number until you apply the proper perspective, in that it slots Maher as the 25th best kicker in the NFL. That number buoys when you filter out anyone with fewer than 30 attempts, but he still ranks second to last in that group, ahead of only Cody Parkey, who finished with a 76.7% accuracy rate and is currently unemployed after costing the Chicago Bears a playoff win against the Eagles. Thankfully for Maher, his foot wasn't the reason the Cowboys were eventually knocked out of the playoffs in the NFC divisional round, but he did miss a 58-yarder that would have kept the 24-22 contest from being a nail-biter in the waning minutes. That's ironic considering Maher, who set a franchise record with his 62-yard blast in the second battle with the Eagles, had been a sharpshooter from 50 yards and beyond throughout the season, while struggling miserably when kicking in the 30 to 49-yard range. For those wondering, the season didn't treat Bailey any better once he landed his new gig with the Minnesota Vikings. The once prolific weapon registered a FG accuracy rate of just 75%, matching his career low set 1 year prior with the Cowboys. The Vikings will give Bailey another go on a 1-year deal though, and the Cowboys only have Maher through the 2019 season by virtue of the 2-year deal he signed in 2018. Whether it's by production, lack of a long-term deal, the fact he'll be 30 years old this year, or a combination of the three, it's a combination of the three. By the way, the club has no choice but to create competition at the position. It's no longer about if they should have retained Bailey. The question now becomes, should they keep Maher? The 2-time NFC Special Teams Player of the Week is as good as he is bad, and therein lies the rub. In a league that's recently seen all manner of downturn at the position, the best kickers are rightfully being treated like Fabergé eggs by their respective team. There isn't much by way of veteran free agency that will push Maher to the limit in training camp, but things could change soon when draft prospects make their way onto the scene. The Cowboys will have options in late April should they choose to use a late-round pick at the position, and it'd serve them well to give one of them a call. It's easy and justifiable to look at prospects like Cooper Roth, Wyoming, and Jet Toner, Stanford, among others in the top 5, but there's also a ton of value to be had from 6 to 11 and slightly beyond. One key example would be Cole Tracy, LSU, who boasts both power and accuracy, and is no stranger to playing on the big stage beneath the brightest possible lights. The former Tiger went 5/5 on FG attempts and 3/3 on extra points to help bury the high-powered Georgia Bulldogs in October 2018, and that's just one example of the glaciers that flow through his veins. Tracy has proven he can deliver, and with all the world watching him, which would serve him well as a member of the most criticized team in the NFL. He, among others, may also be options in the undrafted free agency pool immediately following the draft, and that would definitely sweeten the tea for the Cowboys. Maher deserves a hearty praise for what he did right in 2018, but also the justifiable criticism and concern for the things he did wrong. It was a head-to-head with Bailey that got him the job in the first place, after all, as competition usually brings out the best in players. Of all the things the Cowboys must figure out over the next few months, the future at kicker is a top priority, even if it's not the need that grabs and carries headlines. That is unless the organization wants a cosmic reminder of how bad things were in the early 2000s, before they signed Bailey as in UDFA in 2011. Shudder.